I'm going to officially start. See if I can prop up this microphone. I guess too much in my face. I think you guys could probably hear me fine. Let me know if you can't hear me. I think my microphone's a good distance right now. I'm going to do a reading of the first two chapters of my upcoming horror book. It's called High Tide. And I'll probably figure out how to share an image on live right now, but I can show you guys the cover right there. That's the cover for it. I'm really, really stoked about it. I don't have a physical copy yet because I'm not done editing it. I still need to spend about 2 more days of applying the changes that my editor suggested that I do. And then I'm going to go over one more time and just kind of fix any last minute mistakes that I see. So probably in the next 3 days, I'm going to finish the cleanup and then I'll submit it to Amazon and then to Ingram Spark and get myself a physical copy of it. So this is my first standalone horror book I've ever written. I've written 5 other books, but they're a part of a series. So this is the first one I've done just kind of as its own thing. You don't need to read anything else to be able to enjoy it. But it is connected to my wider universe that I'm trying to make as an author. So even if I do like an independent story that seems like it has nothing to do with anything else, I do try to bring some connection to other work that I've done. And so if you're read any of my books, you'll probably see some connections there. Ozark Lore, yo, thanks for the yo. This book takes place in Thailand, and I'm a big fan of. So before I got into being a horror writer, I really wanted to be a journalist, kind of like an international guerrilla journalist. I love travel. I love going to dangerous places. I used to be a missionary a long time ago. I don't think that way anymore, but I used to go to places like Bangladesh, Nepal, China, and I made it my thing to go places where I wasn't supposed to be. I've been to North Korea before. We're not going to talk about that right now, but I used to do that kind of stuff. And then even though I kind of moved away from that missionary mindset, I still had the idea of I want to travel the world. I want to go to dangerous places and tell people stories, that kind of stuff. And I did that a little bit. But the more that I did it, I just realized that it's not really what I want to be doing with my life. It was good for my 20s to do that kind of stuff. But now that I have a family, I'm trying to build up and everything. It's just, it's a little too crazy. I went to Kyrgyzstan in Central Asia last year and I almost got mugged, almost got beat up by a bunch of Russian dudes and missed my flight back to Japan. And I'm 41 now. So I was 40 at the time that this happened. And I was just like, I think I've had enough adventure for a while. So, but the point is, I used to write a lot about places that I traveled in the world in a nonfiction way. So now that I mainly just focus on my fiction, I still want to set it in different places around the world because one, it's my passion to learn about other places and to share that with people. And two, I've been to these places that I write about and I just think they make unique horror settings instead of just having it take place in the United States, which I will have stories that take place there. But so this one takes place, excuse me, in Thailand, down in the south in a place called Ranong, which is right along the border with Myanmar. And it follows a group of Americans who are just there to party. They're in their late 20s, early 30s. And the main character, her name is Nia. She's in an abusive relationship. She was supposed to go with her husband on this trip to Thailand, but he backed out because a bad thing happened between them. But Nia still goes and she's kind of thinking, okay, what do I do with my life? Right? Like, obviously, I don't want to go back to my husband. He's a monster. But she also feels weak and powerless, like she has to go back to him. So she's with her friends in Thailand and they end up getting this resort island that just kind of comes out of nowhere. And no one really seems to know about this island. It's through a shady deal, but it's really cheap. There's nobody there. And they get this entire island to themselves for a couple days. So they're like, all right, this is kind of a cool deal. It's awesome. They get there. Everything seems kind of nice and fun. But eventually, the tide starts rising in an unnatural way, blocks off their bridge. It's kind of a land bridge to the mainland, and they can't get off the island. But the island's not too far away from the shore. They could just swim across, but they soon discover that there's monsters in the water. There's these strange things that are coming up for things that may or may not be explained later on. But there's things in the water that prevent them from getting off. But at the same time, the tide just keeps on rising. So they have to make a decision. because eventually the entire island's going to be swallowed by the sea, and then they're dead at that point. So they have to figure out what to do. So they're battling nature, super nature. They're battling monsters, but they also battle themselves as well because their group starts breaking down. So that is the basic story. Some of the background for like why I like writing international horror. I'm probably going to write horror in the future that takes place in places like Mongolia, Georgia, which is the country Georgia by Russia, other places that I've been, just because they are fun settings. All right. So I'm just going to read the first two chapters. I think there's not that many people here today, but that's fine. Thank you guys for joining. And I'm definitely going to record this and put this up later for other people to catch it. And I do want to know your opinion about the timing. So for me, it's Saturday morning. It's really easy for me to do this live. But again, like if you're in America, it's probably Friday night. Let me know ideal times for you. I can only do days between Friday and Sunday, so I can't do weekdays. But if you have a specific day and time that you would prefer, let me know. I can't promise that I'll do it at that time, because I got a busy schedule as well. We all have busy schedules, but I'll do my best to try to adjust it. So if that means I do my live at the evening time in Japan, so it's more morning for people in the United States, I'll try to do that and accommodate. So that is that. All right. Take a quick coffee break, and I'm going to read the first two chapters of High Tide. Officially releasing March 15th, by the way. Okay. Let's begin. Marcus couldn't tell if he was bleeding or if that was just water running down his right thigh. The sky was charcoal black, and not a single star dared to show its face to help him figure it out. He was breathing hard, scanning the dark water for any sign of movement, any sign of the thing that had attacked him and Emma. Emma, he thought bitterly. He swallowed the sob in his throat and ran as best as he could in the ankle-high surf, clutching his almost immobile right leg, panting for breath, feeling like his chest was about to collapse, churning up seawater as he splashed through it. The water sprayed his face as it detonated against the rocky wall to his left, leaving traces of salt clinging to his beard and lips and stinging his eyes. The current pushed him into the wall, and he saved himself from smashing against it with his palms. Oh yeah, his leg was definitely bleeding. Not because he could see shit in the dark or tell the difference between water and blood. He knew because, after pushing himself away from the rock wall, his fingers grazed the cut on his thigh and felt inside the torn muscle, as if he were digging inside his pockets for his keys. But instead of finding his turtle-shaped keyring, which he must have left back on the beach, he felt a hard, barbed staff sticking out of the wound. It bit his fingers like needles from a cactus. At first, he thought it was his femur, cracked in half and jutting out. But if that was true, he would not be walking right now. After touching it once more and slicing open his left thumb, he could tell that it wasn't his own bone. It was some alien object that had been stabbed into him. Maybe it was shock that kept him from feeling any pain at all, until now. Electric fire ripped through his skin, making it feel like it would tear from the bone in ribbons. That fire ran up the wound in his leg to his groin, crackled on to his lower back, and splintered off through his stomach like a malicious system of roots. Feeling like every organ and blood vessel was about to burst, he felt them all throbbing. It wasn't just a gash on his leg and the barbed staff inside it. Something was inside of him now, in his blood, pulling him apart. Or was it breaking him down? Christ, he yelled, as he gritted his teeth and his hand shot out to take hold of anything to comfort him, but they grasped nothing but humid air, the current now having pulled him away from the rock wall. The pain was so bad he almost lost his balance and fell into the water, but he could not afford to fall. If he fell, he was dead, just like Emma. So, Marcus did the only thing he could do. He manned up, just like Dad taught him that day on the farm. Stop crying and work, or I'll belt you across the ass again. He trudged through the water, just like he beheaded those chickens on that day of Dad, rusty cleaver in hand, doing his best to not let a single tear fall. He succeeded then, so why not now? He had no idea where he was. The mushroom shake he had drunk an hour ago at the beachside bar was still sending his head spinning into a frenzy of euphoric confusion. The waves in the sky were all one swirling mass of black to him, with no sign of shore past the rock wall. He slapped his hands against the wall, clawing at it for a handhold, but it was too slick and too tall for him to climb. Splash. The heavy dunking sound was somewhere behind him in the dark, out in the deeper water, back where Emma was taken from him, in a direction he refused to go back to. It was one of those things, it had to be. Move your arse, Marcus, he told himself. He wiped the tears from his eyes, but with wet hands the act was useless, and lunged forward along the rock wall, desperate for his bare feet to touch dry sand. 10 minutes ago, he was sitting by a fire, looking out at the Andaman Sea off the Thai-Myanmar border, with Emma leaning her head on his shoulder. The sun hadn't yet set. Its light streaked across the horizon in a vivid pink that looked so solid he wanted to reach out and take a bite out of it. In his stoned state, he wondered if it would taste like cotton candy. In the water, there were maybe a dozen squid fishing boats, too far away to see any details of who was commanding them. They flicked on their white lights as the light bled from the sky. That shroom shake, the very one impairing his ability to get the fuck out of the water, was the first illegal substance goody-goody Marcus had ever touched in his life. One of the many new things he was trying on to become a new person. He had felt something akin to happiness, maybe even freedom, wishing he could spend the rest of his life on that beach with Emma. They had arrived at their first destination, Phuket, Thailand, just yesterday and headed further north along the coast to God knows where, just letting fate take them where it willed. They ate wild, octopus-looking fruit, held onto the backs of men driving mopeds through insane traffic, even held a baby monkey in their hands at a night market. For the first time in a long time, they were smiling together, decided to make a bonfire on the beach away from all the other backpackers, and fall asleep under the naked sky to the tune of a calm sea while tripping balls. They talked about the future, not sure they wanted kids, definitely sure they wanted to get married. Maybe we could do it on a beach just like this back home, Emma asked. The ceremony, I mean. Marcus laughed and kissed her cheek. Why wait until then? How about tomorrow? We can get a seagull to officiate. He could feel her smile beaming at him in the dark. Inwardly, 1,000 doubts flooded his mind. Was he good enough for her, or was that just the drugs talking? Well, no more time to worry about all that, since Emma was surely dead. Ripped from his arms by something in the shallows, as they were standing in it, swaying with the waves and kissing under a darkening sky. She was taken by something he couldn't see in the failing light, but he could hear what happened next. The screams, the snapping of bones, the tearing of flesh, the end of his everything. He yelled for Emma and dove in after her, though he didn't know where she could be in the waves. For a moment, he thought a shark might have gotten her, so he dove underwater, determined to tear out its eyes with his teeth. Maybe he wasn't weak after all, dear Dad. That's when he saw it. The dark mass rising out of the water, barely visible against the inkwell horizon, outlined by the last rays of the now not pink but a dull red blood-covered sunset. What he no longer saw or heard was Emma. A shadowy tendril shot out of the epicenter of that dark mass and raked itself across Marcus's right thigh. It didn't hurt him, but he was still terrified. And that's when he ran. The one good thing Dad said he was good for. Soon after, night came on shockingly quickly. Splash. Much closer than the last one. Marcus dug his nails into the rock wall, broke off a chunk of rock that sliced open his left palm. All of his animal senses came alive, screaming at him that there was something under the water by his feet. Then, to prove their point, an icy touch brushed up against his right calf, seeping into his wound. He heard it breach the surface of the Black Sea, heard the water drip down from his body, like drizzling rain puncturing the serenity of a pool. A blue light flashed behind him. He could see it dance on the rock wall, carving out his shadow in stark relief. The light warmed his backside. Gripping the rock, Marcus didn't wait for it to attack. He spun around and brought the rock down like a prehistoric ape man, wielding his first weapon. He screamed in a frenzy, as if all his rage and grief could power the stone in his hands. Blinding blue light flashed in front of him like the luminescence of an atomic bomb. His hair even blew back, and he felt the heat on his face. But the rock struck true, smashed into the soft body of whatever emitted that light. It hissed and dove back into the water, taking the light with it. Marcus watched as the light sank like a comet hurtling itself into deep space, shrinking in size, something he thought meant it was swimming further away from him. Hope sprang up in Marcus. Maybe he could get out of this. Turning towards the rock wall, his vision cleared some, overcoming the effects of the shrooms. He saw the dark outline of a shore on his right. Marcus ran through the waves, yelling, laughing. Maybe he was even crying. The electric pain spread up to his chest and his throat. His muscles clenched and cramped up all over his body. His stomach twisted, and he felt the need to puke and shit at the same time. But he forced his body forward. Soon his feet were running on sand. Fucking sand. The thought that he would soon be safe overrode his pain. He ran through his cramps, through that skin-tearing sensation all over his body, unable to see anything on the shore, and smacked his face against a rock. It felt like his nose got rammed up into his skull. Flashes of red and white colored his vision. He stumbled and regained his balance. No, 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 he rasped weakly, right hand covering the blood flow from his most likely broken nose, left fist pounding against the wall as if he could move it. He felt all over, touching nothing but more slippery rock wall. He had run into a dead end on a thin strip of sand. Marcus ran to his left, to where the wall entered the sea. Ran back to the other side, gasping for breath, sobbing, the electric pain rattling his entire body. He was a shaken up bottle of soda about to go off. The other side of the rock wall did not go into the water, but opened up to a beach. He was not at a dead end after all, he just couldn't see the way out in his panic. Far off in the distance, he saw a small yellow light burning in a forest and what could have been the side of a hut that it was attached to. Marcus tried to run, but the pain seized his muscles and forced him to limp. Marcus! It was Emma's voice. He looked out at the dark water and saw nothing. Not even the distant lights from the squid boats, not a single star, and thankfully not that blue light. A faint splash that must have been at least 20 feet out. Silence. Help me, Emma screamed again and sobbed. Another splash followed by another silence. The yellow light by the hut was calling to him. Run to me and be safe. You're not cut out for this anyway. Yet, he had heard Emma's voice, crying like a child. She could still be alive, alone, hurting. How could he turn away from her when he just minutes ago pledged his undying love? In a moment, the entire weight of his insecurities crashed down on him. Emma's silent criticisms, weak. Dad's final judgment about him before he left home, pussy. Every morning that he looked in the mirror, coward. He heard Emma's feeble whine again out in the darkness. Quieter now, almost too quiet to hear over the rhythmic breaking of the waves. Marcus ran into the breakers after her. But the moment his feet touched the water, his muscles stiffened. Weightlessness took over his right leg. It felt like someone had just squeezed all the toothpaste out of the tube, but it didn't hurt anymore. He fell flat on his face in the shallows. He couldn't move. The barbed object in his thigh had paralyzed him. Move, come on, move, Marcus, he tried to force himself. The waves rushed into his face and covered his body. He could cough out the water at least as he gasped for breath. Another wave hit him, and the current carried him out into the hungry sea. He regained enough control of himself to keep his face out of the water, gasped for breath, and looked back at the shore. He saw a dark shape that resembled a leg, a sandal lying next to it on the sand. Icy terror gripped his chest. The relentless waves pulled him further out. He forced his left arm to move and felt for his right leg. It was gone. Nothing there but ragged meat at mid-thigh. Nothing below it. His other leg had that same toothpaste emptying feeling now. It spread up to his stomach. An insane laugh escaped his throat. So did thick blood and a few teeth, one of which fell back into his throat, hitting his uvula and making him cough before it lodged itself in his airway, causing him to choke. The waves turned his body over and buried his face in the water. He tried to fight against it but couldn't move his limbs anymore. He felt his left shoulder dislocate. The fingers on his right hand detached from their joints. Maybe a few floated away, but it was too dark to see. And even the cartilage slid off his nose. Below him, down in the depths of the water, that neon blue light came to life and rose quickly to meet him. Something wrapped around his neck, digging into his flesh and pulled him further down. He opened his mouth to scream and drank in the sea. A sound broke through the garbled screaming, speaking directly to his mind. It was a hum that rattled his skull. A single word formed in his mind: rising. His whole body was toothpaste now, slipping down into the dark in chunky streams. Then the beach was quiet and dark once more. The only sound, the melodic crash of waves. That was chapter 1 right there. I'm going to take a little coffee break, recover my voice. So we're going to go on to chapter 2 in a minute, and that'll be it. Let me know what you guys think about the story as well. I would like some feedback if you enjoy it. I guess I probably should have said content warning before I started, but this is a pretty violent story. But if you guys are here, you probably already knew that. Okay. Voice is good. Voice is good. Before I start reading, I used to do narrations on YouTube for my own horror stories where I had just art and I was like reading my horror stories. A lot harder than doing this right now because your voice kind of seizes up. So I thank you, Eon, for saying it's as violent as it should be. And that I have my coffee. It's kind of like my signature now. But apparently eating an apple helps. If you eat an apple and try to speak, you get rid of a lot of the smacking sounds in your voice. That's also why I got this little buffer on the microphone right here, so you don't hear too many of my pops and my gross mouth noises. But yeah, gonna get into chapter 2. All right. Jace, get back here, Nia shouted, though she knew yelling at him would be useless. Jason Ryland wasn't the listening type, never was as a kid, so why should he start now? Jace turned around and flashed a smile that almost seemed to reflect sunlight. Just a sec, I want to see what this is. He ran into the crowd of onlookers on the beach and disappeared. There were about 40 people clustered on the sand across from the guest houses and fruit stands of Ranong, a small town on the Thai side of the nearby border of Myanmar, looking at some unknown thing that had washed up on shore. It was a shark or a whale or whatever. At least that's what Nia could gather from the crowd's excited talk. She was fine keeping her distance from the water and dead animals and crowds for that matter. Jace was the surfer, the extrovert, so he can enjoy all of it enough for the two of them. What an asshole, Ava hissed under her breath, arms folded across her black bikini with white skulls stitched onto the fabric. Nia, who was somebody who wouldn't be caught dead in a bikini, no matter how hot and humid it was wearing a long-sleeved black swimsuit that covered the base of her neck. She side-eyed Ava. He's your boyfriend. What's that supposed to mean? Ava responded. Maybe that you shouldn't talk about him like that, Nia said, immediately regretting it. She didn't fly halfway across the world to get into a fight with some girl she didn't even know. Jace hardly even knew Ava. They had only started dating 2 months ago, so why had he brought her along? Nia should have just kept her mouth shut like she planned on doing since they all arrived in Thailand 3 days ago. Ava's eyes flashed and her pierced nostrils flared. I fucking knew it. That was all she said before turning to walk back towards the street, where more tourists were crossing to look at the thing on the beach. What does she mean, knew it? Nia asked a very bored-looking Val as they were lying on a towel trying to get a tan. Val was as white as paper, which would most likely end in them getting second-degree burns instead. Val didn't even look up at Nia, keeping their eyes glued to a romance novel about werewolves or some shit like that. Nia was a fan of horror stories, especially the classics like Salem's Lot and The Call of Cthulhu, though she couldn't stand to watch a scary movie to save her life. Val's smutty monster porn did not qualify as horror to her. She thinks you have a thing for Jace, Val said. Nia Morgan couldn't have imagined anything dumber. Sure, she and Jace dated for about a month back in high school until they both realized that they saw each other more like siblings than anything else. Growing up together in the mountain town of Pine Haven, they were in the same classes from daycare to high school, only parting ways when Nia went off to college to study English Lit, and Jace blew his savings to move to San Diego and then surf around the world. Nia sighed and sat down on the towel next to Val and lit up a cigarette. I don't need this drama. Then don't get sucked into it, Val said. It's easier than you think. Just look at me, they teased. Slid their expensive sunglasses down their freckled nose and winked at her. See how happy I am? Best life right here. Happy and about to melt all of your skin off. Nia poked Val between the shoulder blades, leaving a white circle in the middle of the reddening skin. Ouch. It was like Val hadn't even realized how long they had been lying there. Oh shit. Val scooted back under the parasol, the romance book left to bleach in the sun. Jace came running back from the crowd with an arched eyebrow that could only spell trouble. Guys, come check this out. His smile fell into a grimace. Where's Ava? Nia pointed to the street. Your princess decided to take a break from your ass. My ass? He said with a pout. Leave my ass out of this. He never did anyone wrong. He brings joy wherever he goes. Just come look at this. I'll find Ava later. What is it? Val asked. I think it's a beluga whale. Val's sunglasses fell onto the sand. You're fucking with me. My dear friend, fucking with you, I am not. Jace took Val's hands and they got to their feet and the two of them rushed towards the crowd. Val looked back at Nia. Come on, bitch. Nia snuffed out her smoke in her half-drunk can of Singa beer. It was too warm to drink it anymore anyway. She got to her feet, brushing sticky sand off her knees, and reluctantly walked towards the crowd. She didn't know what a blue beluga whale was and didn't care. That was Val's and Jace's obsession, another thing Ava was sure to get jealous over. Ava taught high school biology near San Diego, though what they really wanted to be was a marine biologist. While Jace never finished any kind of degree, and while everyone else thought of him as a dumb surfer bum, he lit up whenever people talked about marine life. It was weird, but that was what connected him and Val when Nia introduced them to each other last year. Coffee break. Nia wedged herself between two very drunk Kiwis. Very drunk at just 10 in the morning and slapping each other on the shoulders, spitting their stale alcohol as they hooted and hollered. She saw a flash of Val's long red hair slip between a large man openly smoking pot, despite it being illegal, and a beautiful and young Thai woman holding hands with a frail white man with what looked like a permanent vulture slouch. Nia pushed through the mass of people until she found Val and Jace in front of the water. Everyone was taking pictures or videos of whatever had washed up on the shore. But Nia couldn't get a good look at it. There was no rotting smell, at least. Jace looked back at her. Nee, come here. He waved her forward. Nia hated that nickname, Nee. Jace also liked to slap her on the knee whenever he said it. But she obeyed and went over to him, knowing full well that Jace wasn't someone to be denied. Val was bent down, recording the body of an animal on the beach with their phone. Jace moved so that Nia could see it. Nia was expecting something bigger. It didn't look like a whale at all. It was small, maybe half the size of a grown man, and it looked like a deflated and shriveled balloon. The decaying skin, a gelatinous and blotchy swirl of purple and white and gray, empty eye sockets in its floppy mess of skin. It was flat, like it didn't have bones to hold it all together. Crabs scuttled around the corpse, while metallic green blowflies buzzed around it. A hard, red webbing encased its flattened head. The tranquil water beyond the whale was a laundry detergent mix of blue and green. Nia supposed it looked beautiful, but being so close to it and this dead whale thing churned her stomach. See the head? That's a beluga, right? Jace asked Val. Sure is, with some coral wrapped around it. Maybe, but belugas shouldn't be here. Yep, belugas congregate around the Arctic. Maybe it got lost from its pod? Jace asked. Unlikely. We're talking Canada Arctic, not Antarctica. That's way too far. Jace poked the body with a twisted branch he found at his feet. Yeah, sure. Not impossible, though. Stop poking it, you sicko, Nia laughed. Jace looked up at her with that grin she hated so much, still reflecting sunlight. I don't think it cares anymore. Besides, I'm investigating for science. He went back to his research while Val stood up next to Nia. It doesn't have a skeleton, Val said. Despite the sunburn they were forming, a pale white discolored their face. I mean, yeah, it looks empty inside. Fish ate it? Nia asked, risking sounding stupid on a subject she knew nothing about. Maybe, but look. Val pointed at Jace as he lifted a ruffled blanket of decomposing flesh with the stick, to the jeers of a drunk American next to him, recording on his phone and egging him on. It doesn't look like there are any large wounds or anything. It's like everything was just sucked out. Gross, Nia said. Jace bounded back to them. Talking about me behind my back already? Not everything is about you, Nia sighed. Jace smirked and started going on about whale migratory patterns with Val and what kind of sea life could have eaten its insides like that. Nia tuned them out and stared at the sea. There were no waves, and she could see an island rising out of the depths to kiss the turquoise sky in the distance. The wind was warm and sticky and pushed the stench of that whale, something she couldn't sense until now, right into her face. It all reminded her of a recent summer night in San Diego, swimming with her husband Cole in their pool. They were floating along when that putrid smell hit, and then the buzz of flies. the laughing crowd of drunk and stoned foreigners, the glaring sun and humidity so thick she felt like she was swimming, not walking. The stench. It was too much. Nia started feeling lightheaded and sick. Her mind was full of that night in San Diego now. She turned her back on the dead whale. Can we just leave already? She said. Now facing the street, she saw dozens more tourists flocking to see the corpse. Coffee break. Without waiting for her friends to answer, she started walking back towards their towel and parasol. Val ran to catch up with her while Jay stayed behind with his toy. Hey, what's up? Val asked. Nothing. Don't do that. Val grabbed her right elbow. You look pale. What's wrong? Nia stopped walking only once she reached her towel. I just need to go back to the hotel. All right, then let's go back. Jace came running back, sprinting up from the beach. Hey guys, we're going back to the hotel. Val cut him off. Nia looks like shit. Only a little, Jace said with a laugh. He started saying something else, but Nia couldn't hear it. It was all muffled and incoherent. Val grabbed Nia by the shoulders, but Nia couldn't see their face anymore. It was just a blur. All she could smell was rotting animal. All she could feel was a tightening around her throat. Then the world went black. Nia reclined in a wicker chair facing the beach from a wraparound patio that served as the hotel's lobby, head throbbing and spinning even with a cool glass Coke bottle pressed against it. There was no AC in the entire hotel, so her only respite from the heat was a dusty ceiling fan, rotating slowly above her, creaking with each turn as if it were about to bust. She had passed out on the beach. The first thing something like this had happened to her since she ran track and field back in college and had pushed herself too hard during a long distance relay. She woke up minutes later and puked all over Jace's sandals. He was a doll, like he always was when not in ass mode, and carried her back to the hotel. He and Ava were upstairs now in the room, probably fighting. Nia was sure that Ava, seeing her boyfriend carry Nia like a damsel in distress, only amplified any jealousy that there was. Val was somewhere in town trying to find a sports drink, convinced Nia was just dehydrated. Thankfully, Ranong was small, so they shouldn't be long in coming back. Nia knew she didn't collapse because of not drinking enough water. It was the weight of the past that had smacked her down, brought on suddenly by seeing the dead whale, by smelling it, more like. The waves had picked up now. Dark thunder clouds hung above the island in the distance, threatening to unleash a deluge. Nia was already sick of the sea and longing for the mountains. She agreed to this trip only because she needed to get away from Cole, and this was the perfect excuse. Hey, beautiful, look what I got, Val said as they walked into view, stepping up the wooden steps from the beach, holding a blue and white bottle of something. They handed it to Nia and sat down next to her on a chair like hers. Nia scrutinized the label, but it was all in Thai and what looked like Chinese to her. It's a Japanese drink with kick-ass electrolytes. Drink up, Val said. Nia unscrewed the cap and drank. Thank you. Did you get any more sunscreen? Because you look like a lobster. Val looked at their shoulders and pouted. Their exposed stomach and face were untouched by the sun, but their backside was not a pretty story. This is going to hurt so bad. Fuck my life. I think I have some aloe vera in our room. You should go look through my stuff, Nia said. Val slumped down in the chair like they were actually melting. Thanks, babe. I will later. By the way, Jace got a text from Miles. He's going to meet up with us tomorrow. Ugh, Nia exclaimed unintentionally, rousing a cackle from Val. Miles was Cole's best friend, and back when her husband was originally going to join the trip, he had invited Miles to come. He was traveling solo in Phuket with plans to meet up with the main group at some point. Nia also thought that he liked her. Maybe it was because Miles was always trying to hug her and sent her drunk texts at 3 a.m. asking to hang out. Tell me how you really feel, Val smirked. Anyway, how are you? Physically, I mean. Better. What was that? I know it's hot out, but if anyone's going to get heat exhaustion, it's this vampire-looking bitch first. It was just hot. Bullshit. Tea. Spill it. Just think of my suffering and how badly my skin is going to burn tonight. I need some sweet gossip to keep my mind off of it. Is it Ava? Did she get to you? Or do you actually have the hots for Jace? You are too much right now. Val smiled and winked, didn't say another word, forcing the awkward stillness on Nia, knowing that she couldn't handle it. Okay, but don't tell Jace, though. Ooh, interesting already. It's Cole. Cheating on you? Fuck me. Are you going to let me finish or what? Do proceed. He, you know how he was supposed to come with us? Val nodded, sarcastic sneer, now serious and attentive. Well, a few weeks before we got here, we were in our pool and Nia's voice grew shaky and tears crested in her eyes. Val sat straight up, scratching their back on the wicker chair, which must have hurt like hell with the red and blistering sunburn spreading angrily across her back. Val gripped Nia's hand softly. Nia sucked in a deep breath. Okay, I'm okay. She let out a pathetic laugh. He was drunk, so it's not his fault. I mean, he wasn't himself, is what I'm saying. We were wading around in the water and drinking, and he found a dead squirrel in our filter housing. He fished it out with a net, and the smell was, well, it was just like that whale that we saw. Maybe that's why it hit me so hard. Silence. That's not all of it, Val stated. He blamed me for not cleaning the pool, and Nia faltered and couldn't say any more. Instead, she pulled down the neck of her swimsuit, which looked more like a surfer's rash guard, and pointed to a bruise on the side of her neck in the shape of 4 fingers. Ashamed, she had hidden it with a scarf all the way to Thailand until it got too hot to wear anymore, and she immediately changed into her oversized swimwear, thankfully not drawing probing questions from the group. It wasn't a very big bruise, and was just an accident. That's what she was about to tell Val when they got out of the chair and hugged Nia, and that was too much. The floodgates were open, and they both broke into tears. Watching them from across the patio was a Thai man in sunglasses. Sitting in a dark corner, he was drinking a beer, staring at them, writing down notes on the back of a receipt. All right. That is chapter 2 of High Tide. Yeah, welcome. Some more people have joined. I can't see the list of everybody who's joined, but I can see that more people have. Thank you for coming. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought of those first 2 chapters. And as I said, I still got to do a last minute edit. So thank you, Yon, for saying that you loved it. Like even reading this out loud, I noticed a couple of grammatical errors. Then if any of you are writers, and I think most of us on Substack are writers, it's always good to read your work out loud. I know it's annoying to do that because it just takes more time. But reading it out loud, you're like, oh, okay, this sentence is a little clunky. I could probably make this one shorter. I could change this and that. It really does help out, especially if you don't have the ability to always hire editors all the time. It's good just to read out your story out loud and see if it flows smoothly. So I still got to do some last minute edits. But like I said at the beginning of the live, High Tide should be done in the next 3 days. Done and ready to just put up onto Amazon and Ingram Spark and print off copies and everything like that. And it will be coming out on March 15th. Widely. I do have a Kickstarter going on, and anyone that goes to my Kickstarter, I'm probably going to release the ebook on March 1st. So you'll get the book a week or 2 weeks. Let's say between March 1st and March 10th. So you'll get a little bit earlier there. Physical books, I won't be able to give out as fast as you would be able to get just normally on Amazon. So if you want the book quickly, just getting it normally on Amazon is best. The reason why, because if it's a signed book, I have to print it in America, get it mailed to me in Japan, sign it, then mail it back. So it just takes time. And even physical books can take a lot of time as well. So that's what is going on there. And Eon, you said you're worried it was going to be another spider monster. I had a deer spider last time. And my short stories have a lot of spider monsters too. You don't like spiders? Yeah, I tend to gravitate toward things with a lot of legs, don't I? But we don't know what kind of monster this is yet. We don't have a visual yet. But this is definitely a full-on monster book. It is probably one of my shorter novels. My novels usually run around 330 pages or so. This one is about 250, 230, 250. So it's a lot shorter. And I just get right to the point. Normally, in a lot of my novels, I don't really reveal much about the monster until about the halfway point to keep up suspense. That's usually my style. I like to be more of a slow burn, raise the tension. And a book I'm currently working on now called The Way is Narrow, that's coming out in June, is like that. But this one, I thought, just fuck it. We're just going to do fast-paced monster adventure. I still try to keep some tension, build up some stuff and not go too fast with it. But yeah, it definitely is kind of more like a 80s monster movie, but I do try to put some depth into it as well. and this is probably my goriest book that I've ever written. Chapter 1 was a little violent, but not as bad as it gets. It gets a lot worse. If you can kind of guess what the monster does to you based off of chapter 1, I'm not going to explain it. Um, but you can guess what happens, and things like that do happen later on in more intense ways. But for me, I'm actually not a gore fan. Like, I don't like extreme horror for the sake of violence and things like that. I'm just not. I don't watch horror movies that are super violent or anything. If the point is the violence, for me, the human beings have to come first. You know, that I care about these characters. The fear is real and palpable here. Like, the story is good. That is what I care about. So a horror story could literally have no blood and I'll love it. Or it could be violent and gory, like this one is, but I don't write it for shock factor. Like, there's nothing I wrote in this book to be like, ooh, look how gory this is. It's more so to highlight the horror of what people are facing is why I decided to be pretty violent, which is funny because I don't like violence that much. But I always put really violent scenes in my stuff. Brendan, thank you for joining. Um, so my phone's about to die. I'm going to stay on for another 10 minutes or so, but I'm actually going to have to plug in my phone and take out my microphone. So the audio quality is going to go down just a little bit, but I need to do that to have a little power. So give me just a sec. All right, we saw some audio. Show you my dog right there. He's just a melted potato right now. All right. Now that I'm plugged in, take it off my stand a little bit. If you guys let me know if you could hear me because I just switched microphones to my phone's microphone. So please let me know if you could hear me because if I'm just talking in silence right now, that's not good for anybody. My hometown, by the way, Lake Tahoe, California. I highly suggest you go. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Brandon, for letting me know. And Elon as well. Thank you. Uh, probably not as good as the microphone, but I have power now. So yeah, I was talking about violence, good fun things like violence, and for me, violence has to serve a purpose in horror. So, for example, you take the Saw movies, like Saw One. I think the violence does serve a purpose, not just because what's his name, Jigsaw, right? Not just because he's punishing people for their sins or whatever, but even how the main character has to get out, he has to saw off his own leg, right? And I think there's a lot of thematic purpose to that violence. But then you go on to later Saw movies, and I just think it's just violent for the sake of violence, and I hate that. Like, I cannot stand that. I'm not somebody who's like, ooh, somebody's head got cut off. I'm gonna like it. But if that's a character I care about and it's really horrific and they get the head cut off, then I think it's cool, right? I'm a little messed up like that. Then it's actually something that's interesting to me because the horror hits a little more powerfully, which is why, they could be interesting there. All right. So I'm done reading. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask or any comments or things like that. Don't want to keep on rambling if there's no meat to my rambling. I guess I could say one thing, like, what is the inspiration for High Tide? If you've read Anya Alborn's The Shuddering, I take a lot of inspiration from that book. It's a really fun book. Um, and Elon, you say Saw one was good and the story hit harder. Yeah, definitely. Like, I think the first Saw actually had like a good story. Other ones have okay parts. But yeah, the first one was definitely more hard hitting. But yeah, Anya Alborn's The Shuddering. If you don't know that story, I would go read it. It's a short, fun read. It's a monster book, which is where I got the inspiration for this one. Except in her book, a lot of young people are at a cabin in the mountains. I think it's in Colorado, and they're snowed in, and they have a type of snow forest monster out in the woods that hunts them down. Whereas mine is the total opposite. We're in tropical Thailand. So it's definitely inspired by that, but I do my own thing. I do like to bring in folklore as much as I can. And the monsters that are in this book, are not exactly based off of Thai folklore. So if you read High Tide, I don't want you to, I'll probably put a note at the end of the novel as well that it's not like, oh, these monsters are from Thai folklore. They're just inspired by it. So I look at different things that inspire, excuse me, the myths. I don't want to say what myths those are because that kind of gives away some things about what the monster might be. But you can imagine there's a couple famous Thai cryptids and Thai monsters that are out there, and I kind of just combine a lot of them and make my own thing, is what I do. And I make my own imaginary folklore and mythology. And as I said in the beginning of the live, I try to connect all my books together. So High Tide is going to connect to my other novels, even though it's a standalone story. You don't need to read anything else I've written to understand it. But maybe you caught it that Nia and Jace, two of the main characters, are from Pine Haven, which is, my short stories, and I'm writing novels based on Pine Haven. So it takes place in the same universe. And there's definitely a mythos that I am creating. I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft's mythos of, horrible cosmic entities. And I'm in my a quest to kind of build up my own as well, to create this entire universe of gods and deities and monsters and spirits and all that kind of stuff because it's really fascinating for me to do that. And that is what I'm doing as well. Welcome, Kominka. Yeah, Eon folklore, Lovecraft. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I'm actually listening to an audio of The Shadow over Innsmouth by H.P. Lovecraft. And yeah, Lovecraft. I am definitely, definitely inspired by Lovecraft. So I'm listening to The Shadow over Innsmouth right now. And what I've realized is I've listened to a couple Lovecraft stories. I actually haven't read them in book form. I just find good narration on YouTube and listen to the story. And Lovecraft definitely he's got the whole cosmic horror thing, right? But he also has deep folklore and pagan ritual vibes with all of his horror. And I'm definitely seeing that in The Shadow over Innsmouth right now. And it's just a really, really good story. He's got some pretty racist ideas, which I always knew, right? People always know that Lovecraft named his cat a certain thing I'm not gonna say. And I was like, okay, yeah, yeah, he's got some vague ideas of race. But then I started reading some of his stories, and some of them are fine, He's got a obsession with genetics. Like every village in Lovecraft stories they're all inbred people, right? Like people that just inbred with each other and they degenerate. And he always talks about how their genes are bad, how they're just like degraded people. And that's not racist, right? That's just like an obsession with genetics. But then I get to The Shadow over Innsmouth, and a lot of the people look like fish, right? So he goes to the main character goes to this town called Innsmouth, and a lot of the people have like wide eyes that are kind of like on the side of their head. They got big faces, really creepy. And several times the narrator is like, "Huh, they might have some Chinese blood in them. They might have some African blood in them." He doesn't say the word African though. "They might have some other racial blood in them. Maybe that's why they look like monsters." I was like, "Okay, that's did not know that was a way that he tried to explain fish people." But aside from that, really love his stories. He's got deep folklore. He's got a really good use of geography and of towns and all that kind of stuff as well. So I definitely love listening to him stuff. Brennan, you ask, has your writing process changed at all since my earlier books? Oh, absolutely. My first book, Endless is the Night, was going to be a novella, actually. It was going to be a 30,000 word novella, ended up becoming an 80,000 word novel. And it was all because I just challenged myself. So at that time, I had only written a 2,000 word story. That was the biggest thing I've ever written. And it was really hard. It was like, how do I write 2,000 words? I don't know how to do this. But I did it. I'm not saying it was good, but I did it. So I was like, oh, let's try to write a novella, 30,000 word novella. So I did. And I was like, what if I just keep going? What if I just keep going? And that's how it became the novel. But there was zero plotting, zero in Endless is the Night. If you've read that book before, you might notice that I love my first book. I do. It's my baby. But I also know it's not one of my better books because the pacing's not very good. I think there's some parts of my first book that are very good, if I'm gonna, be self-aggrandizing here. But there's other parts that really drag. The middle does kind of drag, and I'm aware of that. because I did not plot the book. I just went off of feeling, right? I had an idea. Oh, what if some foreigners get lost in the Japanese mountains? And I just went with that and I kind of just like whatever crazy idea I had, threw it out there, and that became the novel. So that's how my writing process used to be, was just blind at the wheel. But ever since then, I was like, okay, I gotta get some kind of control over my craft. I started learning things through books and through a lot of videos and courses. And like, okay, I gotta at least try to plot my book a little bit. And I gotta say, if I plot my book too much, it's boring and I want to quit because I rather just write. So what I do is I'll plot the major points. And there's usually about 27 beats in a story, that I believe there are 27 beats. And before I start writing, I try to plot, okay, what are my 27 beats? For example, what's my opening image? Like with High Tide, it was Marcus getting killed in the water. All right, we're going to start with that scene. Then what's my inciting incident? How are people going to get set off on their course? Which has not happened yet in High Tide with what I read today. Something else is going to happen that pushes people. What's the midpoint turn? What's the climax? But that's all I'll plot. I won't plot anything else. How I get from point A to point B, I'll just go with my feeling. And after the first draft, I'll go back to the second draft and I'll rewrite a lot and do that kind of stuff to make sure it makes sense, to make sure the pacing is good, make sure there's no plot holes, that kind of stuff. But I do try to have a very strong skeleton before I start writing. But I don't plot everything. I don't plot everybody's names because I did actually, funny story with High Tide. Probably it's my most plotted book I've ever written. I did the snowflake method, if anyone's familiar with the snowflake method, where I had to write like 8 pages of outline for the novel before I began. And it did make writing the first draft easy, but by the time I got to halfway done, I was like, I don't like my plot. I don't like my outline. So I just threw it away and I did my own thing at that point. So if I plot too much, it's like I'm going to change so much anyway that it doesn't make sense. But if I don't have any plotting, it's just going to be chaotic mess. So I try to do kind of a balance between the two. And for my process, I usually write a first draft of a novel in about a month. I write about 70 to 80,000 words. Sorry, my mistake. First draft is always about 50,000 words in about a month because I'm an underwriter. My goal is about 80,000, but I always write about 50,000 for draft one in about a month. Then it takes me a second month to look over everything and be like, okay, what do I want to change? I change it and then I beef up the novel to about 80,000 words. Then my third draft takes about 2 weeks. I go through it and I make sure that there are no plot holes, that the story is really what I want it to be. Then I send it out to beta readers. They give me advice. I might make some changes. And at this point right now, I have an editor, but she was doing it. We found each other on TikTok actually. And she was volunteering to edit some of my novels for two of them. And because she wants to become a professional editor, so she was just doing it for free. So I let her. I mean, why not? And she did a pretty good job. Not a perfect job, but a pretty good job. And now this is my third book she's editing, which is High Tide. So I decided to pay her a little bit because, I don't want to just keep using her for free. I mean, it'd be beneficial to me, but not for her. Um, but I'm definitely not paying professional editor wages right now. I probably won't be able to pay for a professional editor unless I'm making a lot of money on these books because an okay professional editor would cost me about 200,000 yen, which in dollars is like $1,200 or something like that for a good editor. And for a really good editor, it's going to be more money than that. So I just can't afford that. And Brendan, you say, thank you so much. You're at the phase of writing a handful of short stories and you want to try a novel or a novella. Yeah, go for it. Go for it. That's how I wrote my first book. It was a novella. And then I was just like, what if I just keep stretching it and stretching it? Even if it doesn't turn out good, it's fine. In my opinion, it's fine. You get the experience of writing a novella length thing. And then you're like, okay, even whether it's good or not, you did it, right? You wrote the thing. You proved to yourself that you did it. And then it might be good. Who knows? And then you could do it again and again and again. So I was someone who always thought it was impossible for me to write a novel. I've only been writing for how long? Almost 2 years? 2 years? About 2 years now. And honestly, writing 1,000 word short story was hard for me. it was hard to write 1,000 words because I didn't know what to do. I had no idea about characterization or tension or pacing. My stories were all like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and it's just a bunch of like random events. But you learn. You only get better by actually doing it and going through the process like that. All right, guys, it's about noon for me right now. We're about at the end of the hour. If anyone has any last minute questions, I'll answer them right now, and I'll wait just a little bit. And if nobody has anything to say, we could probably call it a day for now. Thank you, everybody who joined. Um, and you say plotting can be a roadmap, but you don't have to go every direction laid out exactly. As long as you have the destination and main points. I agree, definitely. For example, my novels, I almost always have the midpoint turn and the finale, like the climax, are always planned when I write. So I'm like, okay, this is how I want to end the novel, and these are some big twists I want to do. How do I get there? Um, but the cool thing is, I don't even know how. Like some things I'm really proud in my own writing happened because of me just writing based off a feeling that I never would have come up with if I plotted. Because if I just sat down plotting, I never would have come up with these ideas. But because I started writing and I just go with the flow, something will pop up and like, oh, that's a cool idea. Um, yeah. That's why I do like kind of pantsing it in that way, right? Going with the vibe. But you do also have that, for me at least, I have to have a destination. I have to have some major things on the way, or else it's not going to end well for anyone, for me or for the reader. All right, guys, I think that's good, unless someone wants to throw in a comment last minute. But yeah, thank you for everyone for joining this live. Uh, a couple new people joined before I asked this, but I do want to know your opinion about the best time for me to do lives like this. I'll be recording this as well and asking the larger community because not as many people were able to join this morning. Because I know in America it's probably Friday night, and other places it's probably not convenient. Whereas it's Saturday morning for me right now. So let me know in the comments, or when I post this up as a recording, you also comment there. I'll probably put a poll to it as well. Let me know what times are good for you guys to do lives. I can't accommodate everything, but I just want to get a good idea and see if I can make like a general time that would be better for the majority of people and things like that. All right, guys. Thank you. Have a good day. Be safe out there. Enjoy the end of February. It's Valentine's Day in Japan right now, but I think it's still Friday the 13th in America. I'm going to be watching some good Jason movies tonight to celebrate. All right, guys, we are going to end. I just saw some people just join right now. Sorry, but we are going to end right now. Thank you, Young. This time works for you as well. All right, cool. See you guys next time. Peace out.